Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Hi, I'm Ari.
I'm Ellie.
And I'm Josh. And Ellie, since you're sitting in this particular seat, I have three questions for you. Do you like drums?
No.
You don't like drums? You like vacuum cleaners?
Can't say I do.
Do you like cookies?
I like cookies.
Oh, okay. That was the third question. Do they refer to them as cookies? Or are they
Wait, you forgot a
biscuits?
question.
Biscuits.
You
Okay,
forgot
that's
a
what I
question.
thought.
Do you like police officers?
Not really.
Oh, I'm sure that they won't be happy to hear that. But yeah, in British countries, they refer to cookies as biscuits, and they go well with tea. And everybody knows that Ellie loves tea. But today we're going to be going over a poem, an epic poem called Requiem by Anna Akhmatova. And Larry has a discussion starter for this one.
Okay, yes. What I want to open with is the idea that this is, a historical event that's happening, right, with the imprisonment of
The Great Purge.
political dissidents or political non-conformists. And I guess my question would be, because of the... It's hard to put this into words. Because of the historical
Relevance.
not relevance, because of the significance, I guess, of this time in history, do you think that it's possible for us to relate to this work as much as might be possible or might be intended?
If you
tough
do your
one.
research, yes.
I think it's relatable, but the tough part is the particular conditions. I think that what may make it, what may put you in the place a little bit better is toward the very end, during the epilogue, there is that line, epilogue 2. If someone someday in this country decides to raise a memorial to me, I give my consent to this festivity, but only on this condition. Do not build it by the sea where I was born. I have severed my last ties with the sea. Nor in the Tsar's park by the hollowed stump where an inconsolable shadow looks for me. Build it here where I stood for 300 hours and no one slid open the bolt. Which, that's the thing about memorials. They place them in areas of convenience. They place it in areas where it is convenient for the individual both physically and mentally, as opposed to a place of honesty where a person could stand in that spot and only imagine, and I mean only imagine what had to happen, because you have to endure the things that went on during the gulags, all in the name of Stalin and his quest for being the ultimate ruler. And Stalin was a fascist, not a communist.
Right. And frankly, I think putting a memorial in that place gives it more relevance to that place, instead of putting it somewhere where it doesn't really matter.
You don't want to have you don't want to have it in a field of hills that what did that field of
You don't
hills
want it to be in a
represent?
happy place. Why would
No.
you you go down to the sea where there's waves and cliffs and jetties and all that kind of stuff, and you put a memorial there. That only works if you're like my grandpa, where he used to live down the shore all the time. That's the only place where it would work. Where are cemeteries usually? They're not like right next to the beach.
No.
Memorials and stuff like that, they go to the place where either A, people can be together, or B, where it is most important for that person.
Mm-hmm. It's what it should be, is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, because it would be a celebrity kind of thing, right? Like where you would want to go and see the childhood home of some celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what she would want, right? She wants people to pay attention to what she was focused on during the
Yeah,
time
rather
of
than
the.
about her.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a perfect example. When Christina Grimmie passed away, they did not have the candlelight vigil in Los Angeles. They had it in Marlton, where she was born.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
That is where she would have wanted. She wouldn't have wanted to have been among all the superstars and all the people that only recently got to know her before all that happened. She wanted to be with her family and with the town that she was brought up in.
And that was, granted, she had resided in Los Angeles, but that was just for her career. Your home is something completely different than
You know,
that.
it's like, what's the difference between a house and a home? If you lived in a prison for 300 hours or what, very long, it's probably much longer than that, but that kind of becomes where you want everything to be centered on. If you were to be remembered, you want to be remembered for being in there and making a difference.
Mm-hmm. But Requiem has a great sense of significance. It's Anna Akhmatova's own account of being in the having to endure the Great Purge. It was written within a period of 26 years, and each segment was written. Many of the segments were written during different periods of time in history.
I have
It's
a
very
lot.
interesting.
I have quite a lot of research on this that I can shed a little bit of light on people out there, viewers who aren't terribly familiar with this period of history. I feel like in order to explain the poem, you need to kind of get involved with the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some research, and the Yezhov Terror, which is the very first thing that it references instead of a preface, it says, "During the frightening years of the Yezhov Terror, I spent 17 months waiting in prison queues in Leningrad. I did my research, and basically it means, one second, basically it's the mass repressions in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and it was conducted by a guy named Yezhov, and he was under Stalin.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what this is referring to. So people like Akhmatova, the writer, were put into these prisons for multiple years, basically because they didn't have the same political beliefs as Stalin. That's basically all it was, and that is what the preface is basically describing. And it also says, could one ever describe this? And Anna says that she can, but really, can she? She can describe it, but what more can you get out of just a description than the experience?
She can describe her because her partner at the time and her son
her first
were
husband.
kidnapped. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then her
But no,
second
I'm
as
going
well.
back to what you said about, is it really possible to get the experience out of this? This is the closest you're probably going to get.
I would say
Yeah.
so. Especially, I think that being merely a citizen in the Soviet Union during that time, you are under far more intensity than being a citizen in, say, the United States.
And also, if you notice the dates here, presumably that these are in order because they look like they're in order.
Yeah.
They say the dates for each of them.
Right.
The-
So between
The preface is later.
I know the preface is later, but between I'm terrible with my Roman numerals. 7 and 8 is when World War II starts. It was September of 1939, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So between 7 and 8 is when the war starts. And that you can actually see that there's a
8 and 9.
Yeah, sorry, 8 and 9. There's a significant change. Oh, wow, perhaps there's a side. Right, 8 and 9, sorry. There's a significant change in the way that it's set. Like, she almost looks like the way the words are written in 9, that she's just so tired that she's not able to write the same way that she wrote before. Like, the beginning of the war actually, like, kind of meant to set something off.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the way it's worded, it's not, no other line in this entire poem, no other section is just 4, 4, 4, 4,
Yeah.
4.
It's really short compared to all the other ones.
It's short and it's completely different.
Crucifixion is written during the heat of the war, particularly Part 2.
Here's something I'd like to point out to all of you, and Josh, I know you hate it when I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to look at something in this poem that may have a double meaning. Well, I'm sure Akhmatova did not mean for this to have a double meaning, but now that we're in 2018, it can have a double meaning. Instead, this entire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 section, it's all about how her experiences within the prisons, what it feels like, what happens. But when she says, you were taken, at the beginning of 1, she says, you were taken away at dawn, and I followed you. And I'm sure she's talking about her sister, I think you said it was, right? Son. Talking about her son. But if you were to change some things around here, I think it could actually be referring not to her son, but to Mother Russia itself as a person. This entire section here could be referring to what she believes Mother Russia was going through in 1937.
I saw it a bit more literal. I think that it was more of the fact that when the children, the husbands, the people that were defiant were taken away, there was the sense that they were just dead people walking.
Right.
They were being brought. They were being taken away.
The line that basically makes me feel this way is, "Weep not for me, mother. I am alive in my grave."
Mm.
That's not the son writing that. That is still Akhmatova writing that.
It would be her writing that, but it's that idea that death is freedom.
Right, but I feel in this case she's talking to the whole country, saying, "Don't worry about me. I'm in a prison. I'm alive in my grave, and I want you to leave a memorial for me in a place that would mean something."
I think that in a way you have a point.
I don't know that she was actually in prison, though.
No,
No,
she
she
never
wasn't.
was.
No, just her son and her husband was executed. And their son, I'm not sure, was he executed or did he just...
No, he survived.
He survived?
Her husband was, he died in the gulags right after Stalin died.
Well, her first husband
Her first one,
was
The
executed.
first one was, executed, and then the second one died in the...
yeah, it was the second one.
Yeah, a little bit of reading I did about the time,
Nikolai
too.
Punin.
It was very interesting, I thought, was how, in order to get these poems around, they would meet in circles and then memorize them from each other, and then burn the paper on which it was written, and then go out and spread the poems that way.
Yeah.
To avoid the arrest from,
So I guess it's possible some of these words might not be correct from what they originally were intended.
Well, she survived throughout the whole thing.
It was
They
translated.
put it
too.
down after she got out. I'm not sure.
But it was one of the lines that really interested me from 5 was, "Everything has become muddled forever. I can no longer distinguish who is an animal, who a person, and how long the wait can be for an execution."
Oh, that's a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't. I think it's like she's completely not sure who's good, who's bad, who's a socialist,
Who's got a heart, who's free,
Who still actually has their humanity.
who's rational.
And when the society becomes so bipolar or so polarized like that, and I mean it's going both ways, right? Where they're not looking at the prisoners as people, and the people affected by the policies aren't looking at the people running the prisons as people. You know what I mean? It's like that's really a bad place.
For Stalin, it's
for the
what's ever
culture
best
that
for
follows
him and what's best to keep him in power. That's all it means.
Well, sure.
Because Stalin, they thought he portrayed himself as being a high and mighty godlike figure, but in actuality he was not such a big and massive figure. Shorter in size, very soft voice, and
He had perfect pitch.
Mm-hmm.
He had perfect pitch.
Yeah.
How about that? Should be on Jeopardy.
the way that my Russian history instructor impersonated him, it sounded like Mickey Mouse, but when I heard him, he sounded a bit more, sounded more soft like this, only in Russian.
Really? Interesting. I haven't heard.
There's also a song that I really like by a band that I know that talks about people leaving Russia during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Once all this had boiled over, and how they were able to return to their respective countries, including Israel. So this has had a huge impact on not just Russia, but on global politics in general.
Well, sure, and a lot of it is kind of new knowledge for us out here in the West, because the political leanings of the intellectual elite has long been sympathetic to socialism, and so this stuff is kind of gets brushed under the rug. The horrors of the gulags and all that, until recently, we're really starting to take a look at all the horrors that took place, in the 20th century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I could say that much.
Mm-hmm.
But was there anything else we wanted to bring up?
It's an interesting poem, interesting recollection of what was happening in that time, and I like how it's separated by years. I think that having certain things in certain orders makes it more be able to attach yourself to it.
It's amazing that she put this together, and how
long it took.
How much of a voice it gave to place and time, or time and place.
Mm-hmm.
The one part that struck me as probably the most emotional would be where, I think it's in the preface, where she's talking about how there's still hope somewhere, right? Like in the distance there's this hope, and then the next line is just verdict, where and that hope is kind of ripped away.
Oh, that's part 6.
Oh, is it part 6?
Weeks fly lightly by. Even so, I can't understand what has arisen. How, my son, into your prison, white nights stare so brilliantly.
One thing I wanted to mention is there's a word that keeps popping up. I don't know if it's because Akhmatova liked using this word, or if it's supposed to represent kind of what's going on, but she uses the word stone a lot, I've noticed. Stone, stony, stoned. I feel like what she's using by that kind of wordage is by saying that by having stone, she believes that things are going to be set in stone and there's no hope.
They thought Stalin was going to be, he was going to have an internal impact, and if it weren't for the doctor's plot in 1953, he probably would have been around, he could have been around 10, 20 more years. But it was, but there was...
It's got to be terrible, man. The helplessness to know that the people that you care about did nothing wrong, and are being subjected to such persecution.
That's what happened in... it happened in Nazi Germany, it happened in Sudan, it happened in South Africa. So it happens everywhere. And all we got to do is just step up and try to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. Is that, do we have final thoughts, or?
Nope.
Alrighty then. I'll leave a link down below to where you can find this poem, and Ellie has an Everyman library edition.
Yeah, they do those for, I think it's a selection of her poems. They're really cute.
And Requiem is in that collection?
I believe so.
I would hope so.
Looks like
as much as possible.
Akhmatova actually died 5 years after this poem was finished.
Yeah, it was 1966. 66.
Right here. 23 June 1889 to 5 March 1966, buried in Odessa, Russia.
Okay. I mean, that was, but she was able to leave with this kind of impactful poem, and that means a lot.
Amen.
Alrighty. Ellie, I want to thank you for spending 6 discussions with us. It was an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure.
Thank you, Ellie.
Yeah, Ellie,
It was nice to meet you.
Alrighty then. And I...
Say bye to Ellie, everybody.
But be sure to check out her channels. Be sure to check out her BookTube channel, Earl Grey Books. Be sure to check out her blog that she contributes to
Yeah,
in
Goodreads too,
Wonderland.
right?
Yes.
And be sure to check out her Goodreads as well. We're going to leave links down below to wherever you can, wherever
Yeah.
you might want to
I'm
look
everywhere.
for her.
Yep.
Yep, she's got a great presence.
Josh, Ellie, me, Larry, and Jesse all have Goodreads. So make sure to check out our Goodreads.
Alrighty. We'll leave links down to that below as well. But be sure to join us next time for another episode of
Literary
Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.